We asked an elder woman about these rituals. For children and other vulnerable individuals, the milk and sometimes the blood of the cow provides essential nutritional elements. This is why the kraal is crucial for the well-being of the community. Karimojong pastoralists are also warriors. They traditionally fight for the cattle, even raiding other tribes. The ceremony of the bull sacrifice may be performed at several special occasions in the community's life, like weddings and initiations. But it also takes place before or after a traditional cattle raid. Cattle are central to the Karimojong way of life. They are the main provider of food and other products, such as skins and dung. A marriage is never really complete without an exchange of cattle as dowry. The size of the cattle herd is also the foremost sign of wealth and social ranking in Karamoja. But the conflicts around cattle have greatly changed in recent decades because of the massive introduction of semi-automatic weapons in the late 1970s. A few weeks after the fall of the regime of Idi Amin in 1979, the military barracks in Moroto were left unattended and then looted by some local tribes. This event literally triggered an arms race among the tribes and the appearance of a new type of cattle raiding, oriented towards immediate commercial gains and centered around the AK-47. The government of Uganda has deployed its efforts to put an end to this vicious cycle. The The conditions for disarmament campaigns have always been difficult, given the locals' resistance. The several campaigns initiated by the UPDF have been challenged, and disarmed tribes have had the opportunity to rearm themselves. Unprotected communities have become especially vulnerable and felt the need to ensure their self-defense. Today, the UPDF is trying to combine forceful with negotiated disarmament, in parallel with the implementation of a long-term government strategy for the development of Karamoja. The UPDF Division Commander Patrick Kangahiro, speaking before an assembly in Nabla-Tuk for burning of confiscated weapons, expresses the government's resolution to conclude the disarmament operations.
But now, this government, the NRM government, even before coming into the power, when the president was still struggling excuse me, to liberate this country, so did that. Karamoja, bring me some water. Karamoja should be free from guns. But since 2006 up to now, we have said now this program of Karamoja must be accomplished. Of disarming, the disarmament exercise must be accomplished.
The presence of arms in Karamoja has historically been connected to international arms trafficking routes. Before reaching the remote African bush, these guns have all, in the past decades, followed trade routes from producing countries in the Northern Hemisphere to their final destinations in conflict-prone areas across Africa. Top officials from the affected countries are now actively cooperating to have a better grip on security at their borders. The Minister of State for Karamoja, Aston Kajara, is directly engaged in implementing a new joint strategy for border control.
I told the Sudanese leaders whom we had there, including a Minister of State for Communications, I said, these guns we are destroying, their source is Sudan. And we must work out a system where these arms are not moving either side. But of course, these are also issues of the IGAD, as you know, and issues of the East African community. At regional level, we are handling it at that level, so that the small arms trafficking is controlled, so that there are no arms trafficking on either side of the borders.
In the past decades, cattle raiding has also spread across the border areas between Karamoja and other regions of Uganda. Especially in Teil, intensified raids by tribes from Karamoja started simultaneously with the introduction of the AK-47 in the late 1970s. That phenomenon marked a significant shift in the nature of raiding and transformed the relationships between the tribes. Past economic exchanges were then interrupted. Since then, the humanitarian impact for populations living in Teil has been disastrous. In the small village of Ngarium, in the district of Katakwi, many people lost all their cattle following the raids. One particular tragedy still haunts the minds of the villagers. It was on September 13th, 2001.
They killed 17 people, including all the men, women, and even children. And on top of that also, they took cows, more than 500 cows.
More than 500 cows.
Yes. Some of the dead ones included, this was a married woman, Ikarut Makuleta. This one was a married woman, Ikarut Makuleta.
The government has trained a special police force to protect these people, known as the ASTU, Anti-Stock Theft Units. Their mission is to prevent further raiding and recover stolen cattle, even deep into Karamoja. ASTU Commandant Rashid Kaga comments on the impact of his force's action.
Our effort has been actually good. We have been recovering so many animals. We follow them up to Karamoja and they recover them. We bring them back here. But they sneak because they move at night. Then we ambush them and finish them. If we get them, we don't spare them. Because they are criminals, we don't deal with criminals. The only language these people hear is real confrontation. You confront them, gun to a gun. That's when you can manage them. They don't hear any other language apart from using force.
Community members, NGOs and international organizations have reported alleged human rights abuses by the Ugandan army. A witness tells about these allegations.
The military have gone on killing anybody. You know, it's not selective. For example, sometimes during the exchange of fire, given the little knowledge the Karamojong have in fighting, they have always tried to overpower UPDF, most especially the infantry. So in such situations, they go on like using these automatic weapons like propeller bombs, and once those ones are sent in a village, I mean, it has always killed anybody who is there. The torture has been massive, and it cuts across the Karamoja region, and people have not been happy about it. But the whole general thing is, even after all this, UPDF is not readily accepting the torture aspect, and even the leaders themselves are not allowed to investigate on the way the people are being manhandled by the UPDF.
Back in Kampala, we asked Achia Remigio, a member of parliament for Karamoja, how he engages with all parties to address these concerns.
On the ground, when there are issues, like for example in the current disarmament, when there are some incidences where some elements within the UPDF have tended, when they go out to this cordon and such, to do some bad things to the local people. What I do is immediately to follow up that issue and get the people to bring evidence and get to invite their leaders, including the division commander, to come and listen from the horse's mouth what has happened.